Star Wars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, a UK-based Star Wars podcast with in-depth discussions and analysis sprinkled with some silliness. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete.
And I am Jason Hondo Ling.
And we are back with, I suppose, a more straightforward episode of Star Wars today. You know, since we came back at the beginning of January, we've had a look back at 2024. We've had a look forward to what the rest of 2025 has in store for us Star Wars fans. And we've had our deep dive review of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which of course finished at the beginning of the year. And today we're back reviewing the latest news stories from a galaxy far, far away. Jason, how excited are you to be back talking about some delicious Star Wars news?
Yeah, it's good to be back. Just a little bit more straightforward than all of our deep dives and stuff. So, and there's plenty of stuff going on at the moment, and plenty of stuff coming out along the way to look forward to.
There certainly is. So we're going to be talking some movie news, especially in terms of casting, writers and directors. Some from this past week, some from earlier in the month, which obviously we weren't discussing as we were doing our look back episode. We've got some Star Wars games news, and we've also got some Star Wars action figure news, as it was indeed the Hasbro Pulse Star Wars reveals this past week. Let's just dive straight into movie news, and it's a big one. It's Ryan Gosling, the Hollywood heartthrob. He's in talks to join not just any Star Wars movie, but apparently Shawn Levy is going to be directing a Star Wars movie. So Shawn Levy's, of course, just done Deadpool and Wolverine. I didn't even realise Shawn Levy was attached to do a Star Wars movie, so this all seems pretty strange. But multiple outlets are reporting that the three-time Oscar nominee, Ryan Gosling, is in negotiations to star in an upcoming Star Wars project directed by filmmaker Shawn Levy. So details on any Star Wars project, as we know, are harder to acquire. You know, it's all crazy. But, so this came out of nowhere. Big publications like the Hollywood Reporter ran the story, so to me it makes sense that they've got some sources on record, and you know, I imagine it's, you know, if it turns out not to be true, it will be because they haven't gone forward, not because this was made up, I suppose. Lucasfilm has declined to comment, and then they never do want any sort of impending deal or project details. So I suppose it's two bits of news, I suppose. So what's your thoughts on on Levy directing a Star Wars film, and what Star Wars film that could be? And then obviously what's your thoughts on, like I said, a Hollywood heartthrob, you know, a three-time Oscar nominee in Ryan Gosling, sort of in negotiations to be the main star of said film?
Yeah, obviously it's always interesting when these stories drop because, as you say, sometimes they just literally drop out of the blue, and also obviously when it comes out that different directors are attached to do different things, we wonder what's going to happen. Obviously, we've had the likes of Taika Waititi and that who were confirmed, and then stuff hasn't happened. So obviously, I'm guessing this is going to be one of those films that's in its early stages of doing a Star Wars film. I think I'm trying to see where it all came out from. But obviously, Shawn Levy's been very popular since the work that he's done with the Deadpool and obviously with Stranger Things. So obviously he fits in. He's worked with Marvel, who are obviously closely linked to Lucasfilm through Disney and also with like the comic books and stuff. So it tends to fit quite nicely. I think he'd be interesting to see I think it'd be a little bit quirky, his film. So yeah, I'm just really intrigued to see what he comes out with, and if he gets the chance to move forward into production, because we're waiting with bated breath. Obviously, I know we're going to discuss it in a minute. There's been a bit more news on the Daisy Ridley film, which was in the or is in the works. So obviously we're waiting on that. To hear that there's something else in the pipeline is always good news. And hopefully, from the sounds of it, something a little bit different to everything else that's going on.
And this seems like, so sources are saying that Levy's been developing this Star Wars feature since 2022, so probably the same time as when those movies got announced, this one was in development. So with this coming out of the blue, I think this could be the next one in production. So Levy's been developing this with Jonathan Trober, who collaborated with Levy on films such as This Is Where I Leave You and The Adam Project, and he's been working on the script for over a year, which is good. Means if the script's done, that's when you look to attach your star, I suppose. It's different with Daisy Ridley because if that's a Ray film, you need Ray. But if this is a standalone movie with new characters, you can cast whoever you want. So looks like the script's been in development for over a year. They've been developing this since 2022, and it seems like now they're looking to hire actors and good to go. So, if it's meant to be a standalone movie, that would make sense, I think. And as we know, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is the latest Star Wars film to have wrapped principal photography in mid-December, and it will be released in May 2026. So that's May the 22nd, 2026 is the next Star Wars film. I think it seems to me that, if Gosling signs on here, then this could be good to go straight into production, in which case this could be our Star Wars film of 2027. I don't know what your thoughts on that. When you think about, like I said, the Ray, we're going to talk about, the Ray movie has a new writer, but this one's being written for over, if it's been in development since 2022 and he's been working on that script since over a year, then this could be good to go, I suppose. And it's probably easier to write if it's not attached to any part of current canon.
Yeah, exactly. I think Sean's spoken about the fact that he didn't want to be tied to canon, and it was going to be set in somewhere or an area of time that hasn't been explored yet, which is good. Because there is a huge range and a huge range of stories that are yet to be tapped in canon that people would like to see. Whether it's something they're sort of harking back to the days of the expanded universe, or whether it's something that fits into what we've already got. But as you say, the fact that they've been working on it for so long is always a good sign. But obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's been in production hell for years. But I have to admit, if they are looking at particular actors and getting them signed on board, then that's a good sign. And it's always good. We're heading at a time where we're expecting big announcements for Star Wars to start being made. So this could be the lineup that we're looking for.
And sources are saying that sort of the Gosling development is a late in the game move for Shawn Levy's movie schedule. So obviously the filmmaker was, set to direct a boy band movie set up at Paramount, which would have reunited him with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, obviously from the Wolverine and Deadpool movie. But Gosling all of a sudden being available and interested in this Star Wars project has shifted the Star Wars project into hyperspace. So it seems like if that deal is made and Gosling does sign on, then this would be Shawn Levy's next project, which again would tie into the fact that it would be the next film to be released after The Mandalorian Grogu. So a lot, and like I said, this is all in the Hollywood Reporter as well as some other big outlets. So it's not your usual trashy reporting. This is Hollywood Reporter wouldn't run this unless they had more than one source, I suppose, confirming it. So very, very exciting times. And Ryan Gosling, as I said, he's a Hollywood heartthrob. He's a very, very handsome man. He has a lot of range, I would say. I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling. He could be anything from a scoundrel to a politician. He could be a general. he could be some sort of young Jedi. I would hate to see him as a Sith because he's very soft on the eye, so he's already going to be tempting people. And then if he's a Sith Lord as well, he could be double tempting, which would be pretty out there. What's your thoughts on the type of character Ryan Gosling could play?
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting, as you say. He could be a scoundrel. It'd be interesting to find out what his favourite things about Star Wars are. You know, is he a Jedi fan? Is he a Han Solo fan? I could see him being like a bit of a scoundrel because he's quite mischievous in a lot of the stuff that he does. So yeah, it'd just be interesting to see what they come up with. Um, I, I, I suspect he would probably want to be a Jedi. I've got a feeling that that would be his like childhood dream. But who knows? And who knows what the script entails? This is the thing, and if it's in a time that we haven't yet explored, there's so many different ways it could go.
Speaking of Hollywood casting, obviously this was sort of revealed at the end of last year. I think it was more rumor mill than actual confirmation, and maybe not as source driven as what we've just discussed in terms of Ryan Gosling. But have you heard about Jeremy Allen White, who is of course star of The Bear? Will apparently star as Jabba the Hutt's son. Obviously, is Rota the Hutt or Stinky if you've watched Star Wars: The Clone Wars. What's your thoughts on Stinky or Rota the Hutt appearing in a live action Star Wars film? And then what's your thoughts on the fact that would get someone like Jeremy Allen White to star as him?
Yeah, I don't actually know Jeremy Allen White, so I'm not sure what sort of actor he is. But obviously, the Rota character, um, I'm really intrigued by that because obviously we saw him as a young Huttling in the Clone Wars film when he was kidnapped by the dastardly Dooku. And I have to admit, it was something when they showed the twins in The Mandalorian. I sort of thought, wow, it's funny. Rota could have turned up at that point, but nothing's ever been heard of him since the Clone Wars. So when this was announced, I was like, oh, actually, that'd be quite cool. Because obviously by now he'd be a fully fledged Hutt, and, would he be as mean and angry as his father, or was he a spoilt little brat of a Hutt? So, yeah, and also obviously it fits in with the Mandoverse brilliantly. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to it because it means that we're going to get some more Hutt action in the Mando film, um, and Grogu interacting with the Hutts. I think will be a bit of fun as well.
And of course, don't forget we also saw some Hutts in Skeleton Crew enjoying those lovely, was it hot springs or was it mud baths?
Yes, I'm not quite sure what it was, but they certainly seem to be enjoying themselves.
They certainly did. For me, so Jeremy Allen White, he's quite a. So in The Bear, he plays a chef who has a lot of family drama and ongoing drama of not just taking over our family business and also the drama and the intensity of wanting to be sort of a Michelin star winning chef, but also like a lot of sort of personal demons and battles he's going through. He's a very good actor. My favourite role that he's done so far is in The Iron Claw, which is the story of the Von Erichs, which is a real life pro wrestling family out of Texas. A very tragic family. And Jeremy Allen White plays Kerry Von Erich, who, of course, was in the WWF/WWE as the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. And he went through quite a, the story of Kerry Von Erich is a tragedy. So he's definitely got a lot of acting range. What I would say is that let's not get carried away because we all know that Rota the Hutt, if he is in a Star Wars film, is either going to be CGI or he's going to be a puppet. So Jeremy Allen White's probably just going to be supplying the voice, I would imagine. But yeah, do you think we'll see Rota in The Mandalorian and Grogu, or do you think we're going to see Rota in something different?
It definitely sounds like it's going to be in the Mandalorian, and it stands to reason, as I said, it would fit that he would appear in that sort of time frame. But yeah, who knows with Star Wars? They chuck something new at us all the time.
They do indeed. They do indeed. Moving on from that, we've got a bit of recasting news, which, I feel like had to happen. And that is that Rory McCann is set to replace the late Ray Stevenson as Baylon Skoll in the Ahsoka storyline. Obviously, Ahsoka Season 2 is sort of in pre-production currently with Dave Filoni and gang. But yeah, multiple sources are reporting that the Game of Thrones actor Rory McCann is set to replace the late Ray Stevenson as Baylon Skoll in the second season of Ahsoka. Rory McCann is obviously a Scottish actor best known for playing the burly brute, the Hound, in HBO's Game of Thrones. Obviously, it's very tragic. We lost Ray before Ray could even see what fans thought of the show. I think it was timeline-wise. But obviously, Baylon Skoll was a huge part of that Ahsoka season. Just his link to the Jedi in the past, but also his link to the future and what could be happening on Peridea and what's going to be happening when he is looking for this untold superpower that he's searching for. So yeah, it's tragic that we lost Stevenson. Obviously, he died after a brief illness in May 2023. 3 months before the series premiered. But his character as a fan favorite, his performance as a fan favorite, and I think the character for me was really, really intriguing because he was written well, but also because Ray delivered a fantastic performance. And I think we want to know what happens next. And sadly Ray can't do that, but I'm sure Rory would take the role on as respectfully as he can. And I'm quite happy that we are getting a continuation of the character, and I think that is paying homage to Ray's legacy of delivering such a really good performance in that first season. So, what's your thoughts on Rory McCann coming in to be Baylon Skoll? And what's your thoughts on the fact that yes, we are going to get the continuation of Baylon Skoll's story in Ahsoka season 2?
Yarp, I am very happy. Sorry, I had to do that because obviously the one character that Rory McCann plays for me that is absolutely brilliant, and I didn't even realise he played it until not so long ago, was in the Hot Fuzz film, and it's completely different to the character of the Hound. He was brilliant in Game of Thrones. The Hound was one of my favourite characters. His interaction with Drone Flynn's Bronn was brilliant. Arya Stark was brilliant. The way he took her under his wing. As an actor, he was playing this character that's this big brute, but over the time, we really got to discover he was more than just brute force. So he played that so brilliantly, and I think he can bring that sort of acting to the character of Baylon Skoll. Like you say, I've said a lot of times, and I've discussed it with different people. Baylon Skoll's one of my favourite characters. I think he was absolutely brilliant. I think Ray Stevenson did a brilliant, brilliant job, and I was absolutely gutted when I heard that he died, because I was already looking forward to seeing him in Star Wars. Then to see him play that part, it just broke my heart because he was so good at it and delivered such a great performance that it was like we'd been cheated of some real brilliance there. But likewise, I think it's a good tribute to him that the character continues. I think the fact that he put in the work and I'm sure he knew when he was filming it that there was going to be a second season. So obviously that continuation is just natural. Him as as an actor, I've talked about it on here before. When you see the videos and the photographs of him interacting with the cast and you hear the stories, I'm sure when they've been or when they're filming the new series of Ahsoka, he's gonna be missed big time. But I think Rory will fit in, and obviously he's already had the experience of working on one of these big character driven series, that I think he will have the acting ability and the skills to deliver exactly sort of gravitas that Ray did. So I think it was a really wise choice. There was a few other actors um, from different series that I could have seen stepping in, but as soon as I saw this announcement or this um, sort of leak, I was like, yeah, actually, that makes sense, and I think he could do a really good job. And you see the photographs of the two; that they're not similar, but they're not dissimilar. There's enough of the character that you won't be jarringly thinking, oh, it's a different person. And I think as long as he can carry off the character, what you got to remember is each actor's playing a character, so it's their portrayal. And this is what I think a lot of people get hung up on, and I think you've got to give the actors their due. An actor is there to portray a character that's been written by someone. Their skill is bringing across the character that they've been given, and a good actor can step into the shoes of another good actor. So that's it's like I've said before. I would love to see Star Wars go down the route of more Luke Skywalker stories, with someone like Sebastian Stan playing Luke Skywalker as a middle version of the Mark Hamill character, and I've got no problem with that. It doesn't. I think he would be able to bring across exactly what Mark would want to bring across, and I think they could work together. Um, so I think this is good news, and I'm glad that they're not, just forgetting the storyline of Baylon Skoll, which I don't think they could do anyway. I think he was too integral to the story. So I'm really pleased that they've found someone who can step into the shoes, even though they're very big shoes to step into.
Definitely. And, McCann's got a huge range and is also working on huge projects. He was recently just on the big screen in Gladiator 2. His other credits
Yep.
include Edgar Wright's Hot Fuss, as we mentioned, Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage, Jumanji, The Next Level, the recent Knuckles TV series on Paramount Plus, and he's also been a voice in the animated series Transformers Earthspark. So, huge range there and a wide different range of projects in different roles. I think what's very important is that, Ahsoka ended with sort of Ahsoka stuck in the unknown galaxy, okay? So that's obviously where Ahsoka's story is going to follow. Anakin's ghost was watching over her. As if to say there's work to do here. So I think Ahsoka and Sabine are going to have to stop Baylon Skoll unearthing this magical power that could be related to the father, the son, and the daughter from the Clone Wars episodes. And I think that's huge. So I think it is good that we're getting to continue that storyline on Disney Plus in live action with the same cast and crew, except for where we can't have the same cast and crew. And obviously, sadly, you have to replace them. But, like I said, Rory will come in, hopefully do a fantastic job. There's also been talk that Hugh McGregor is signed on to come and do flashbacks as Clone Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi in Ahsoka Season 2. Have you heard about that? And what's your thoughts on that, Jason?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff flying around about Ahsoka season 2 at the moment, and actually about Ahsoka season 1. Um, I briefly seen the bit about Ewan McGregor, and I thought, yeah, that makes sense, especially as Obi-Wan was just as important to Ahsoka as Anakin was. But the other interesting thing is, I saw recently that apparently Natalie Portman actually filmed some scenes that were cut from the first season of Ahsoka as Padme, and there's now rumours that she's going to be in the next season of Ahsoka as Padme in some of the flashbacks. So I found that quite interesting, but I was really pleased that we could see the three characters from the films coming in and interacting with Ahsoka, as we see the three of them interacted so much with Ahsoka in the Clone Wars TV series. So yeah, I'm really happy, and I hope it happens. I think if they asked Ewan McGregor to come back to play Obi-Wan for Ahsoka, I don't think he'd hesitate, because we know how much he loves playing the role. And I would also think the way he worked with Hayden in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, he there was a bond there that the two of them were pleased to regain, and I think for him to then slot into the Ahsoka series, if they're going to do more flashbacks, then that'd be great. So I hope that the rumors are true, and I look forward to then seeing more and more of the characters that we grew to love in the prequel films, and also obviously in the Clone War TV series.
I hope it happens, and I think it makes sense not just because I know we got some Clone Wars flashbacks in Ahsoka season one with Anakin and Ahsoka telling their story, but that was really relevant to them. But I think when you think about the arc in Clone Wars where we see the father, the son, and the daughter, it's Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka who are there on that planet involved in that. Did it happen? Did it happen? That sort of dream sequence that almost gets forgotten about at the end of it. So I think to have the fact that Ahsoka's here on Peridea looking to stop somebody, unleash the power of the father, the son, and the daughter, and the fact that Obi-Wan was there originally, so to have Obi-Wan involved in these flashbacks, not just flashbacks, I would love to see flashbacks to Clone Wars Obi-Wan, obviously, just to see him sort of Ewan McGregor in the Clone Wars armour would be absolutely wonderful, and also create some wonderful figures that I would definitely spend all my money on, similar to what we've done with the Anakin ones that are coming out, and there's one to talk about later as well. But I think Force Ghost Obi-Wan being there as well. Now, how you would do that, because last time we've seen Force Ghost Obi-Wan, he's, of course, Alec Guinness, but I'm sure they can do some movie magic. But yeah, flashbacks to Obi-Wan, but then also the Force Ghost Obi-Wan with Anakin, sort of looking to help end whatever Baylon Skoll's trying to do with this unlimited power he's talking about that is linked to the father, the son, and the daughter. Moving on from that, James Mangold, who's of course was announced to direct a Dawn of the Jedi style movie, which would be a Star Wars film set thousands of years before known canon. He reveals what will make his new Star Wars movie work. Obviously, Mangold, his last film before, so his Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, is releasing now in cinemas, and getting good Oscar buzz as well, especially for Timothy Chalamet, who was of course playing Bob Dylan. His film before that was of course Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I quite enjoyed, but it did get mixed reviews. I think in the box office wasn't as fantastic as maybe some people were expecting. So he's linked to Lucasfilm and Disney's maybe last time round wasn't the results that they all expected. But like I said, whilst discussing his new film, the Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, Mangold revealed sort of, to him, the really important aspects are the freedom to make something new. Obviously, the Star Wars movie would be taking place 25,000 years before any known Star Wars movie takes place, in an area and a playground that I've always wanted to explore and that I was inspired by as a teenager. I am not interested in being handcuffed by so much law at this point that it's almost immovable and you can't please anybody. So I don't think there's anything new there, and I think the fact that his film was going to be Dawn of the Jedi and it was going to be set thousands of years before known canon sort of gives him the freedom. I think the Prime Jedi being referenced in one Star Wars comic, maybe a Dr. Aphra comic, I think, but just in a couple of pages. So again, he's probably got free reign to sort of, as long as it ties in with what the story want for the Jedi, to sort of talk about the Dawn of the Jedi. What's your thoughts on Mangold's comments here? And obviously, it seems like A Complete Unknown is going to do really good box office and really good awards. So it seems like he's going to be in a good frame of mind and off a win going into his Star Wars project, should it be the next one off the ground for him.
Yeah, no, I sort of, I again, it's a bit like with Shawn Levy, obviously going into an area where you aren't tied with canon is good, for story and being more creative. And I think with obviously what happened with, I think working in with something like Indiana Jones, where there's certain things that you've got to do in an Indiana Jones film. And obviously, working with Harrison must have been absolutely amazing. But the problem is that, no offense to Harrison, because he does a brilliant job, but he's a lot older than he was when he did the original ones, which I think caused a few issues. For me, I enjoyed Dial of Destiny. I have to admit, it's not one that I go back and keep watching. Whereas obviously the original three I can watch over and over again. But I think it's just the nature of the beast as the stories get older. So to be able to do something that's a little bit fresher, uh, but as a storyteller, I think he has the ability to really carry a Star Wars film, which is what is the important thing. He's a good storyteller, which is what is important. So whatever happens, I'm quite intrigued to see what James Mangold can do, and I hope he gets the chance. And I hope, as you say, his latest film's getting good reviews and everything, which means then he's buoyed. He's not. If he'd have gone into production of it straight after the Dial of Destiny, then it might have been, I've had a bad, or not a bad experience, but not the experience I expected with that. Is this going to happen this time? Whereas, as you say, if you're having a good time, then your confidence is going to be at a higher level. So I think it'd be brilliant. Again, an exciting filmmaker to see working in the Star Wars universe, and I just hope we get to see something on the screen.
No, it certainly is. And I think, obviously, we don't know how far along sort of the idea of the Dawn of the Jedi film is, story wise or script wise. Probably less ahead than what we've talked about before in terms of the Ryan Gosling and Levy movie. But time will tell. But it's good to see. Like I said, I have not watched the Bob Dylan biopic yet, but I like James Mangold. Like I said, it was a shame that Dial of Destiny didn't maybe get the critics' reviews that it maybe deserved, and that the box office wasn't as big as maybe they wanted. But I think this is definitely a big win, this Bob Dylan film for him. So hopefully, be feeling confident going into the production of his Star Wars film. Sure, it happened. Speaking of Star Wars movies that were announced, Daisy Ridley's new Star Wars movie enlists writer George Nolfi. So George Nolfi, known for his screenplay work on movies such as The Bourne Ultimatum and Ocean's 12, has been tapped to write Daisy Ridley's new Jedi Order film, set to be directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. As we know, this was announced at Star Wars Celebration in London almost 2 years ago, and to me, this is goes to show this hasn't moved along very much. The fact that we've just hiring a new writer now, are they coming in to sort of do a full rewrite, or are they just tooling the script up? I suppose that we do not know, but we do know that several high-profile writers have sort of come on and left the project. Um, but yeah, I think Damon Lindelof, obviously from Watchmen and Lost, Justin Britt Gibson, who were obviously initial writers on the project. They were working on it before the director was brought in. And obviously by the time that Ridley was revealed as returning in April 23, Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight was clacking away at the keyboard. But by October 2024, he was no longer on the project. Obviously, the script delays have pushed back sort of any hope production starts for the project, which at one point was being eyed to follow the recently wrapped feature, The Mandalorian and Grogu. I think at the time, Mandalorian and Grogu, as I've said, releases May 22nd, 2026. And this one was maybe going to release in the December of that year. But, like I said, they've just hired a new writer now, so there's no way this is going to production anytime soon. And like I said, instead, the next Star Wars movie that we'll shoot could quite possibly be the Untitled Project from director Shawn Levy. So what's your thoughts on sort of a new writer for this movie?
Yeah, obviously, all films, or a lot of films that are very famous, go through different iterations over the years, and Star Wars has been one of those. So for a new writer to come in, obviously it's natural in the movie making progress, and you know, I the one thing I will say is obviously George has a very good back catalogue of quite successful films that he's worked on. Whether he's doctoring a script that's already been done, tidying it up, or a completely new one, who knows? Obviously, there's been quite a few very very good writers attached to this and worked on it. Um, but it's got to be at the right stage, and obviously, as we know, Ray's story so far hasn't necessarily been the most popular in some eyes, but as a character and as an actress, Daisy Ridley is very popular within the Star Wars community and has played a brilliant character, even if the films haven't exactly have polarized people. So I think hopefully bringing on a new writer, bit of new blood, working with a director who's now in place, will give the project more of a power to move forward. But obviously, if Shawn Levy's project is in the position to go, then that's great. It would be no. I hope that they can continue to start filling these slots like they want to. Obviously, we know we're getting Mandalorian and Grogu, May the 22nd next year. Woohoo! Um, which I can't wait for. So yeah, that is really good. So hopefully this project will move forward. I have to admit, I would like to see what happened to Rey after the Rise of Skywalker. I think she was left in a position where she could just disappear into the known galaxy, or she could build a new Jedi Order, and it sounds like they're going down a new Jedi Order. So that would be great. And it also, we get a ghost of Luke Skywalker. That would be just as fun to see Mark Hamill back on the screen. So I hope that George, if you're listening, just keep that in your mind. Mark Hamill still about.
Definitely. I think for me, this is, from what we're aware of, is the third writer on the project now. So I
Yeah,
would like to think that Lucasfilm and Disney know what direction they want the script to go in by now. They've already got rid of sort of two sets of writers. So, I like to think if you're picking again, you should know what you want and know what you want to zero in on. So you pick the writer to do that. So I would like to think that, with this being the third writer on now, that this should be zeroing in on the project they want to do. It's funny because this project's obviously rumored to be set 15 years after the Skywalker saga ended, and it could actually be real time because
yeah.
it's already 10 years. It's the 10th anniversary of the Force Awakens this year. So like I said, this has been third writer on this now, so it could very much be real time and storyline 15 years after the events of the Skywalker saga, which is pretty cool. Moving on from that, here to talk about just a quick one about the Acolyte. Obviously, we know the Acolyte got a lot of sort of online sticks, some of it from the far right aspects of the internet. There was a lot of talk about budget, and the budget was extremely high on the movie. And there's been a lot of talk about viewership, but it has just been announced through Deadline that The Acolyte was actually the second most watched series on Disney Plus in 2024, with 2.7 billion minutes watched. It was only beaten by Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which was the top dog on Disney Plus, and that was 3 billion minutes. What's your thoughts when you hear about the fact The Acolyte was the second most streamed show on Disney Plus in 2024? What's your thoughts on the fact the budget was probably just too big for anything? And what's the real reasons you think it's been cancelled?
Um. Oh, sorry. Um. Yeah, for me, it doesn't surprise me because the problem is obviously there was a lot of people that viewed it, but there was also a lot of people that didn't like what they viewed. But that's neither here nor there because I think it was, you know, an, a good series. The expense thing, I think we've discussed this so many times. They they gave them a budget, they used that budget, and they created something that was visually spectacular. Now, obviously, if the budget's not available to make the second season to the same standard, then you know, fair enough. Do you then decide, right, if we can't do the same standard that we had before, we don't want to move forward? Or do you think, okay, is there a way we can do it cutting down to a cheaper cost? Doesn't sound like Disney have gone that route. It sounds like they've gone, okay, we can't afford to keep doing it like this. We're cutting things, but that is just a management issue. I do think that is one of the issues with the series, but I do also think that the negative press and the hounding online from certain sectors has caused a lot of the issues, which is disappointing because I personally think, and it's quite funny, I was talking to someone only last night um, about his views on it, and he again said he enjoyed it. He but he found it in his words plodding, and I can sort of see what he meant. It was slow moving, and when you were watching it the way we were, which was you watch an episode, you wait a week, you get the next episode. Some of the episodes you sat there and you thought, well, that didn't move me that far forward. And he was explaining how someone else he knew had waited and had binge watched the entire series. And he had a very different outlook to that series because he binge watched it, which I can completely get. And I have binge watched it myself since watching it the first time round. And I have to admit, I think I probably enjoyed it more and found the story easier to go along with. So there's lots of issues for me why the Acolyte didn't work. There were characters in the Acolyte that I struggled to really grasp, or not so much grasp, just have a feeling for. Whereas there were other characters, for example, Khmer, I really want to see where Khmer went after the Acolyte finished, and I'm sure they're going to explore it because he did such a brilliant job. But it's one of those things that in some ways we can all keep wanting, but it definitely seems like Disney have shut the door on this one for the time being. So all I'm looking forward to is the stuff with the likes of Andor, the next season of Ahsoka, and whatever comes after that.
I think once we get Andor and Ahsoka done, I can see us just getting Star Wars animation on Disney Plus, because I think Disney Plus wants to move away from live action shows. I think that's the state of streaming, not necessarily the state of the Acolyte and Star Wars. I think it's very interesting. What was like I said, the second most watched show on Disney Plus? So two things: either, like I said, they finally realized that budget was just too much and they couldn't even do a second season for half the budget, which I think you probably could if you wanted to. That again, they want to just take streaming, take Star Wars TV away from TV and put Star Wars in the movie theater unless it's animated. But like I said, the numbers are there to say it was your second most watched show on your entire platform for the whole year. And I think that's pretty huge. I think that says a bit more about why it was cancelled, and it wasn't about viewers. It certainly was not about viewers. Moving on from that, obviously it was the first Hasbro Pulse Star Wars Fanstream event of 2025 this past week. Obviously, they revealed a few things across the Vintage Collection, which is the three-quarter inch traditional line and the Black Series 6-inch line. A lot of them are up for pre-order now as well. We had some pretty cool vintage collection announcements. So we're getting Baylon Skoll and Shin Hattie for the first time in the vintage collection in the 3/3/4 inch line. Obviously, they've been released the Black Series figures before, but this is the first time we're getting those from Ahsoka Season 1 in the vintage collection, and they look really awesome. We're getting the Mandalorian Super Commando, which I think is a re-release from the Clone Wars, but we're getting them on the Ahsoka card. The figure might be a little bit different, but I'm not entirely sure how much different. We also set to get the vintage collection Clone Trooper 501st Legion refresh, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And then in the Black Series line, we're getting Anakin Skywalker, but the Hayden Christensen Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars costume, as seen in Ahsoka Season 1 in the flashbacks. And then we're also set to get a Black Series Clone Captain Rex. Obviously, we've had Clone Captain Rex before in the Black Series, but this will be the first time that we've had Clone Captain Rex in the Phase 1 armour. So the Clone Captain Rexes we've had in the Black Series before in the Phase 2 armour. This will be in the Phase 1 armour, so it's pretty exciting. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if you saw any of the Hasbro fan stream or if you've seen any pictures of the figures since it aired.
I've looked at them on Jedi News, and I have to admit I'm very, very excited. I love the Baylon Skoll and Shin Hati figures. I can quite easily see myself getting those to collect purely because they're two characters that I really enjoyed. And I think they do look really, really cool. Um, the I have to admit the Mandalorian Super Commando is also a really cool figure. And at the moment, with my um, love of Mandos, it's something that I'd love to add to my collection of the few little Mando figures that I've got. The other thing that I've looked at, and I've got to show my work colleague tomorrow because he is an absolutely mad on battle droids and loves Roger Roger. And I think that collection of the battle droids just looks so fun. I think he will probably have to purchase those just to put them in his games room. So they were really good. Obviously, the Hayden Christensen figure looks awesome. It's going to be a popular one, and it's a really nice sort of display piece. And likewise, the figure that would really appeal to me because obviously I'm a huge Captain Rex, sorry, um, fan. Him and Commander Cody. Um, I do like collecting stuff relating to them. So yeah, I'm tempted by all of those, which is really annoying because budgetary. I'd have to make some choices.
Definitely. Speaking of battle droids, I've had a purchase arrive from the Echo-based trading group, the modern one. So I've been rebuying some of the Phantom Menace figures from 1999, and so when the battle droid was released, it's one figure, one SKU, but it was available in like 4 different paint jobs. And they're just slightly different, but there's 4 different ones. And I managed to pick up all 4, and they have arrived this week. I haven't opened it yet, but all 4 battle droids. So each different paintwork has arrived. So I'm very excited to open those up. So stay tuned to our TikTok to see me reveal those. Moving on from the Hasbro releases, we're going to talk video games. So apparently there is a real-time strategy Star Wars game in development at Respawn Entertainment. This is pretty much rumors that are suggesting this, but the game's going to be set in the Star Wars galaxy. It's planned to be revealed at Star Wars Celebration Japan, so somewhere between the April the 18th and the 20th. And yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on a new Star Wars game. There's talks that not only will we get the public announcement, but we'll also get the trailer during Star Wars Celebration. It'll be aimed for platforms on Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and on the Epic Store. Respawn are obviously also reportedly working on the third and final installment of Star Wars Jedi game series. Obviously, we've had Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, which obviously follows the adventures of Cal Kestis. And we're expecting that to be released in late 2026 or 2027. But what's your thoughts on us getting a real-time strategy Star Wars game? So for me, I suppose real-time strategy, I would imagine, is very much like Command and Conquer and games like that from back in the day.
Yeah, that could be the sort of game that I'd actually quite enjoy to play because, as I've said before, um, I'm not a huge gamer, but I have to admit that sort of thing would tempt me. So yeah, it'd be exciting, and obviously I know if there's a new Jedi game for that series, it's gonna be very popular. The first two were very popular, and I know they like announcing them at Celebration. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a cool announcement coming up there. So yeah, it's exciting because obviously the gaming community loves Star Wars stuff. But well, they love Star Wars stuff, but sometimes they love to hate Star Wars stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what their Respawn bring out to tease the fans with.
Definitely. And that brings us then to sort of all the Star Wars news that I'd pulled for us to talk about, Jason. Is there any Star Wars news or topics that you want to bring up that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I'm gonna hit me Lego button for a second because there was quite a fun announcement. Obviously, last year saw the Force of Creativity book written by Graham Hancock released, which it's a really nice book, but also because it's of its content and the way it's been done, it was quite a hefty book price wise. So now they've brought out a slightly cheaper version without the time capsule that you get in the original one. But it's I'm just trying to see. Yeah, so it's on Amazon. So the recommended retail is 60 quid for the new version. Amazon have got it at 46.25 at the moment. So that's available for pre-order for release on the 24th of April. So if you want to get that book at a slightly cheaper price without the bonus extras, it's a good way. They did the very similar thing with the Rebels book that I've got, where you had the hard case version, and then they brought out the just the ordinary hardback book. But something that'd be a lot of fun. I know the book looks awesome from what I've seen. I may be tempted to add that to my birthday list for this year to get the slightly cheaper version because it is something that I'd really like. And I've met Graham several times. And I know he is a real Lego aficionado, and I'm sure he's got lots of interesting stories there in that book. Also, quite an interesting one that I saw today, and I'd actually seen it in the shop and not realised. But the latest Lego magazine is out, and I'm trying to find. It's got a Mandalorian figure on it this month. But at the same time, what was really interesting is next month's figure is quite exciting because if you purchase the magazine next month, you would be able to get a rather cool Qui-Gon Jinn Lego minifigure. Which, if you're a Lego fan, there's not a huge amount of kit with Qui-Gon in, so it'd be a really good chance to get that character. So yeah, just giving a heads up. Oh yeah, it's the Mandalorian Night Owl is the one in this month's magazine. I have to admit, it's a cool figure. I've got it with a few kits, but it is a really cool figure. So yeah, bit of Lego news there for you.
Definitely. And obviously, Graham E. Hancock was, of course, a guest on the Star Wars Show, episode 162, released on the 9th of July. So, in that episode, we sort of deep dived the entire sort of creation, the whole idea, and sort of the final product of Lego Star Wars, the Force of Creativity. So, the fact that's available again, sort of in a bit more of Still deluxe, but slightly less deluxe as the original version. Obviously, it doesn't have the sort of Lego pieces with it. The fact it's available makes sense, but anybody who wants to know about what Lego Star Wars The Force of Creativity is all about, definitely go to episode 162 of Star Wars. It was published on the 9th of July, if that helps you looking for it. And listen to Graham get very sweaty talking all about Star Wars Lego and about how he crafted such a wonderful Star Wars book. It's all in Star Wars episode 162. Anything else you want to talk about, Jason?
Yeah, few things coming up for me. Just some news that we are very much working on Dorchester Strikes Back at the moment, and we hope to have some exciting announcements very, very soon. I've also been working with chatting with the Mandos this weekend, and hopefully on the 23rd of February, I will be going to meet up with a few of the guys, and we're going to do a bit of a um, crash course in Mandalorian armor building. And the aim is to get me kitted up, ready for Dorchester Strikes Back. So it's the guys threw down the gauntlet, challenged me at the Dorchester Strikes Back to get myself in armor. So that is the plan. Hopefully, the big reveal will be on the 2nd of August.
Fingers crossed. That sounds absolutely awesome. I think that brings an end to this week's Star Wars. Thank you very much, Jason, for coming and getting sweaty talking Star Wars with me. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. Jason, where can the people find you on social media?
At Hondo Ling, as always.
And you can find myself on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can also find the podcast on X at Boars Star, and you can find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, anywhere else, YouTube at Star Wars Podcast. You can also find the links to the social media in the episode notes of this podcast in the episode description. May the Force be with you all, and remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.